On quiet mornings, I still find myself making too much coffee, 2 mugs instead of 1. Habit, I suppose. When I left the old house behind, I thought the hardest part would be the silence. Turns out that was the easy part. What no one tells you is that grief doesn't scream. It just lingers, like the creak of a porch swing no one's sitting on. The mountains here are kinder, softer somehow. People don't ask too many questions, which I like. They just nod when I say I'm retired, that I needed a change. No one asks from what. But even in this new stillness, I find myself sending little things. Birthday cards with no return address, a quilt square stitched into a package for my granddaughter with a tag that says, "For your quiet strength." No one knows it's from me. That's the point. I don't want to intrude. I just want them to remember that I love them, even when I stopped being seen. I still keep a shoebox in the bedroom closet, filled with Jason's old notes, little scribbles from when he was 6. "You're the best mom ever." Crooked letters, crayon hearts. I shouldn't still have them, maybe, but sometimes when the wind comes through just right, I read them out loud like they're prayers. Back then, I believed love was a seed you just kept watering, no matter how dry the ground got. And when I walked away, I didn't think I was starting a revenge story. I thought I was ending one. But now I know. Leaving was just the first page. Sometimes I still pay the property tax on a tiny piece of land outside Little Rock. Land Jason doesn't even know we still owned. John bought it back when Jason was 10, said it was just in case. I guess I held on to the same hope. Just in case. Funny, isn't it? You can disappear completely and still be giving more than they ever asked for. I'm not sure what that says about me. Maybe it's strength. Maybe it's foolishness. But I do know this. Just because I walked away doesn't mean I stopped feeling. That's the cruelest part. They think silence means surrender. But sometimes silence is just a mother learning how to speak again, in her own language, in her own time. It came in the middle of a Tuesday, an email from Jason. No "Hi, Mom." No "How are you?" Just a subject line. Next steps. He wrote that it would be wise to revisit the remaining assets, the ones that were still in play. Said it was time we formalize the transition, and that, as your only heir, I'm prepared to take over what's reasonable. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, reading it over and over, as if somewhere between the lines I'd find a trace of the boy who once begged me to stay an extra 5 minutes at bedtime. But there was nothing. No warmth, no mention of our last conversation, just logistics. I didn't reply. What was I supposed to say? Thank you for treating me like a merger? That night, I scrolled social media. Bree had posted something vague but sharp. Some people cling to control like it makes them immortal, even when it hurts their own family. Her friends commented heart emojis. One wrote, "Ugh, yes, cut the toxic ones, even if they're blood." Funny thing is, I don't even follow her, but the post found its way to me anyway. They always do, don't they? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I printed Jason's email, folded it carefully, and slid it into the shoebox with the crayon letters. One more artifact, one more goodbye I didn't ask for. That's the thing about being erased. You don't even get the courtesy of a final conversation. They just start rewriting the story and pretend you were never part of the first chapter. And if you've ever had your love, your sacrifices, turned into a line item or a bullet point, tell me below. Not for validation, not for pity, but because someone out there might be reading these comments, feeling invisible too. And maybe your story will help them remember they're not alone. I sat in the dark that night, one lamp on. Outside, wind moved through the lavender like a whisper. I whispered back, "I'm still here." But no one was listening, so I said it louder, but only to myself. "I'm still here." And this time, I believed it. The next time Jason called, he didn't ask how I was. Not even a polite, "How have you been?" Just got straight to the point. "Hey, Mom, quick thing. Do you still have the deed to that house in Little Rock? The one Dad had you sign back in the day? I'm trying to get things organized, and it's slowing things down. No please, no thank you." Just like that. I pressed the phone to my ear and stared at the wall in front of me. It had a crack running down the paint, one I kept meaning to fix but never did. I suppose I was hoping it might fix itself, like some people. Jason kept talking, something about needing it wrapped up, said it would be cleaner if I just signed it over. I placed the phone gently on the counter and walked outside, left him talking to no one. The wind was soft that evening. The sky held that faded peach color that only shows up for a few minutes, like a kindness that doesn't stay long. I stood by the lavender, barefoot on the gravel. It didn't hurt, not in the way I thought it would. It was a different kind of ache, the kind that doesn't shout. It just sits in your chest, quietly rearranging your bones. Inside, I'd left the kitchen sink running. The faucet still hummed. It didn't matter, because something else had stopped working. The part of me that once jumped to fix things just because someone I loved didn't know how. I used to be the woman who reminded him to pack a sweater, who drove across town at 6 a.m. with cough syrup, who wrote his college application essays when he forgot the deadline, and now he doesn't even ask how I'm doing before asking me to give him something else. Maybe you've been there too. That moment when you realize they're not calling because they miss you. They're calling because you still have something they want. And when you finally stop giving, they act like you're the one who changed. That night, I lit a candle. Not because I needed the light, but because it felt like something real. I made tea, sat on the porch, didn't check my phone, and for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel the weight of everything I gave, and how little of it was ever returned. I always thought clarity would feel like a lightning strike, big, dramatic, loud. But when it finally came, it was none of those things. It came in the form of a yellow folder, plain, quiet, tucked at the back of the cabinet behind the coffee filters I never use. I'd gone looking for an old recipe, the cornbread one John liked, but instead, I found what was left of our estate papers, the kind he used to call our future in envelopes. There was a deed, a few bonds, the title to a small lot outside Little Rock, still in my name, still untouched. Jason didn't even know we still had it. I laid everything out on the kitchen table and stared at it for a long time. Then I pulled out a pen, not because I was angry, because I was done being convenient. I called the lawyer the next morning, not the one Jason used, a woman in town, kind eyes, no judgment. Her name was Denise. I'd like to update my will, I said. She didn't ask why, and I didn't explain. I didn't say, my son treats me like a liability, or he only calls when something needs to be signed. I didn't need to justify what I already knew to be true. That afternoon, I sat at Denise's office sipping lukewarm tea while she printed the documents. Under primary beneficiary, I didn't write Jason's name. I wrote my granddaughter's, not because she asked, not because she's perfect, but because she once slipped a note into my coat pocket when no one was looking. Just 6 words, shaky handwriting, barely a whisper. I see you, Grandma. I do. That was all. And it was enough. You reach a point in life where you stop begging to be understood and start choosing where your legacy lands. I used to think love meant always giving, no matter how little came back. Now I understand love can also mean, this is where I stop. I signed the will, folded it, didn't tell anyone. Jason will find out eventually, and when he does, I won't owe him an explanation. He'll say I changed, that I turned my back on family. But the truth is, I was always here. They were just looking the other way. That evening, I sat on the porch with a blanket around my shoulders. The sky was soft and gray, the kind of quiet that isn't empty. It's earned. And for the first time, I felt something shift. I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel erased. I felt chosen. Not by them, by me. The funny thing about healing is that it never feels like a grand event. It doesn't arrive with banners or applause. It shows up one morning when you realize you're humming again while folding laundry. That's how it started for me. A small sound in my own throat I hadn't heard in years. I began teaching a little class at the community center, Wednesday afternoons. Nothing fancy, just quilting and basic mending. Mostly young women, a few older ones too. Most of them don't even know my last name. They just call me Miss Katie. Some are going through divorces, one's fighting for custody. Another cried through our entire first session because she didn't know how to sew a button back on her kid's school shirt. I didn't fix their lives. I just showed them how to hold a needle steady when their hands shook. And week by week, they came back. Not because I was anyone important, but because someone was willing to sit beside them without judgment. One of them, a young woman named Claire, asked me, "Why do you do this for free?" I smiled. Told her, "Because someone once gave me everything and never asked for anything back. It's time I passed that forward, but in my own way." I never said who that someone was, but in my heart, it was John. And maybe a little bit of who I used to be. My days look simple now. Tea at sunrise, tending the lavender, a radio station that still plays Patsy Cline. But something's different. I'm not filling the hours waiting for a phone call anymore. I'm not watching the mailbox hoping for an invitation to a birthday party that was already planned without me. I'm just living. Quietly. Intentionally. You see, I used to think survival meant holding on. To the house. To the memories. To my title as mom. But maybe real survival is knowing when to loosen your grip and let yourself grow somewhere new. If you've ever felt like you had to earn the right to exist, to be heard, to be needed, to just be, you don't. You already do. Some days I still feel the ache. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But these women, these daughters I didn't raise, they bring me pieces of myself I forgot I'd lost. And slowly, stitch by stitch, I'm learning that even if you've been erased from one story, you can still plant yourself in another, one that doesn't require permission, or applause, or apologies, just sunlight, and a little space to grow. He found out 3 weeks after the will was signed. I don't know how. Maybe someone in town mentioned it, or maybe he finally decided to look through the papers I used to handle for him without question. But on a rainy Thursday afternoon, Jason showed up. Same Navy truck, same worried shoulders. Only this time he didn't come down the gravel drive like he owned the place. He stopped at the edge of the gate and just stood there. I was on the porch, trimming dead leaves off the lavender. The storm was still far off, just thunder in the distance. He looked at me like he didn't recognize the woman I'd become. "Mom," he said softly, "I heard about the will." I didn't say anything at first, just kept working, let him find his own words. I didn't expect that. I finally looked up. "I know." He stepped closer. "Why her? Why not me?" I set the shears down, wiped my hands on my apron, because she saw me, before it was too late. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice, didn't call it unfair. He just looked tired, like the weight of all the years he didn't ask real questions was finally sitting on his chest. "I didn't mean to forget you," he said. "But you did," I replied. "And the worst part is, I helped you do it. I made it easy to ignore me. I stayed quiet so long, you thought I'd stay that way forever." We stood there, two people on opposite sides of a life we both let unravel. He pulled something from his pocket, a small photo, faded, me and John. Jason as a toddler between us, gummy smile holding both our hands. "I kept this," he said. "I know," I answered. He hesitated. "So, what happens now?" I thought for a moment. "I have tea steeping, if you want to sit a while." He looked surprised. "Even after everything?" I smiled. "I'm not bitter. I'm just careful now." We sat quietly on the porch. No big speech, no movie ending, just the creak of the swing and the sound of rain beginning to fall. When he left, he looked back once before turning down the road. That was enough. Later that evening, I lit the candle by the window. My quilt rested neatly on the arm of the chair. The air smelled like rosemary and wet earth. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something that may never come. I had arrived. Have you ever been seen only after you stopped asking to be noticed? If this story echoed something in your heart, Tell me below. One sentence, one moment, one memory. You never know who needs it today.